Okay guys, the day has finally arrived. We're back on this hot start problem with this GSXR750 SRAD. I ordered this from CMS NL and it's taken what seems like forever to get here. So it was ordered on the, where's my phone? It was ordered on the 9th of September and then it wasn't dispatched until the 19th, which is weird, but it was showing in stock. So I don't know why they had to wait 10 days before they sent it to me. And then it took a further 5 days to get here. So God knows what was going on. So in here we should have... Do I get a keyring this time? Oh, what? £200 spent. I didn't get a keyring. I'm collecting keyrings. I think I don't have a blue one. That's the only one I'm missing. So it's not in a Suzuki box. Oh yes it is, I lie. So it's going to be interesting to do some comparisons between this one and the one on the bike, you know, some static resistance measurements and also looking at the waveform when it's hot. I suspect, I'm sure it'll prove me wrong if I say it out loud, but I suspect that even, you know, when the other one's working correctly, it's got a slightly noisy waveform. So we'll do a, when we fit this and we start from cold, we'll do a direct comparison between a cold start on the old sensor and a cold start on this one, looking at the waveform. You know what I'm saying, I just want to test them back to back. Okay, so I've got to get the bike apart now. So bike apart, not a massive drama. Tank's already loose, seat is just resting on. So I'm going to get this fairing panel off and the engine covers. I'll time lapse it coming apart. Yeah, right, onwards. Okie dokie. Somebody mentioned, no, several people mentioned in the comments of the last video. I do try and read a lot of the comments. I don't always reply, so don't be disheartened if you don't get a reply from me. Oh great, it's the wrong size. What was I saying? Focus, Jim. Somebody had said, people had said, why don't you use some freeze spray and cool the pickup down to test your theory? And that's a great idea, apart from the fact that the pickup is absolutely buried in the engine and it's really difficult to get at. And once you'd taken all the covers off to get to the pickup to freeze it, you'd then have to put it all back together quickly so it didn't spray oil out when you were trying to run it. So yeah, great idea for cooling the pickup down, but it's getting to it. And it's also bolted to a fucking ginormous heatsink of the engine, so that in itself would make it a bit of a pain in the bum. Anyway, let me get this fairing off. Oh, are you going to make me take that engine mount off? Surely not. What is happening? There we go, thank you. Put a tray under it, it might do a little tiny wee-wee. Looks like it's been apart already because it's got, helps if you get all the bolts undone, Jim. It's got silicone sealer all over it. It's also worthy of noting, so all those bolts have come out without washers. You know this already, right? This has got a little rubber washer on it. You'll see why, because that's open into like fucking taking a watch apart, fucking springs and stuff everywhere. So there's a, not a top tip, but you know this already. When you take something apart like that, make sure in your mind you understand the order of all the little shims and stuff. So on the back of this, there's a shim there, and on this side there's a shim and a wave washer. Get it in shot. There's a washer on the back, and there's a shim on the front with a wave washer. Just, you know that already, why I'm even wasting breath saying that. Ooh, there's a bolt missing. There should be a bolt in there, and it looks like at some point it's been snapped off. Okay, well, carry on. I seem to remember, because I was working for a Suzuki dealer back when these were brand new, I think there was a recall on this here, because the gears used to rattle. I'm sure there was I can't remember now. I remember something about there being a rattle from these gears and we had to do something. It might have been a new wave washer or something on that shaft. Put it in the comments if you know the answer. I'm sure there was a recall for them. Oh, come on now. Where is that pivoting from? It's stuck on the starter motor. Ah, there we go. Right, make sure there's no shimmage on there. Okay, old gasket. Shim on the front, not on the back. Right, okay. Pickup lives underneath here. This has got to come off. This is the starter clutch. It's a one-way Sprag clutch. So you can see now why freezing the sensor is not it's just not viable. What's that? 14 mil by the looks of it. So luckily, this thing is not on a taper. It's just on a spline shaft on the end of the crank. Well, not on a shaft. It's on. Speak! It's on a flipping heck. I'm still getting over me COVID. Honestly, my brain is not functioning. The end of the crankshaft is splined, so there's no taper. It just pulls off. No washers or anything, as far as I remember. That's a big fat lie. It's a big fat washer on the back. Okay. It can't go on in the wrong way. Well, it could go on in the wrong way probably, but there is a little punch mark there on the end of the crank, and there's a line there. Now, technically, if it went on in the wrong place, it wouldn't make any difference in terms of how the engine ran, but there are some lines. There's a line here that you use for top dead center for your valve clearance, for your putting your cams in. When you're doing your valve clearances, you would use this mark for top dead center, because there's a little, in this cover, there's a little inspection thing here. So if you inadvertently, get yourself into a fucking lot of bother here, if you inadvertently just didn't notice this line, because there's no key spline, some of them have, if I hold that up to there, see the spline is universal all the way around. Some of them have not these particularly, but some bikes that have this design have a splined starter clutch that goes on the crank. They're key splined, which means there's a spline that's different to all the others, so it can physically only go on in one place. Get to the point. So you could, if you didn't realise that there were marks on here that were relevant to, you know, other bits of maintenance, like finding top dead centre when you're doing your valve clearances, and you just whack this on, you'd be done with the job. It would be running fine, it would go away, and then the next guy that comes along who's doing his valve clearances think, well, I'll just get top dead centre with this line. Fucking hell, can you imagine the catastrophe? So pay attention. That's that then. Right, so that's as far in as we need to get. I need to get my JIS screwdriver, probably an impact driver. These are, they've been disturbed. They have been taken out before because you can see, well, you probably can't see, but they're rough. You know when somebody doesn't have a proper screwdriver? Oh, there's a thing. I sort of just assumed that this was probably all original, but then the giveaway is the silicone maybe on all the covers and stuff. It's got some history, this bike, hasn't it? What was I saying? I'm as far into this now as I need to get. Let's get the sensor off and out of the way. We'll do a side-by-side measurement on the bench, see if we get any difference. We'll fit the new one, new gaskets. Let's put it all back together. Let's do some more comparison testing. Not a top tip, but I think I've talked about these before. These JIS little bits I've got, they're absolutely bloody awesome in this sort of scenario because you can properly tappy tap tap. They've got an 8mm hex on them. You can put a T-bar or a spanner or a socket on. They should be thread locked in, and they haven't been by the looks of them. They've got some silicone on them, but no thread lock. And the heads are, I'm not sure that's going to come out on camera, but whoever was last here didn't use the proper screwdriver. Almost always the case, which is a sad state of affairs, but that seems to be how it is. There's another one there obviously, and then there's a little clampy clamp there for the wire as well. Right, let me finish getting this apart. Let's get this sensor off and I'll bring you back in on the bench. Okie dokie. So, new one, old one. Let's just do some side-by-side testing while they're both, you know, at room temperature, so to speak. Let's calibrate my meter this time, because if you were here for the... No, that's not what I want. If you were here for the BMW charging system video, then you'll know that I had some weirdness in one of my resistance measurements. And I'm pretty sure it's because I hadn't calibrated. Right, okay. So, what's the old one telling us? The old one is 164 ohms, and the new one is 161 ohms, so they're virtually identical. I was just thinking, wouldn't it be interesting? I was thinking I could put both these sensors in the Cerakote oven at, I don't know, not too hot, but like 70 degrees. Just let them heat soak for half an hour and then redo the measurements. I'm going to do that, see what happens, just out of interest. Right, I'll be back with two very hot sensors. Okay, so I've had both sensors dangling in my Cerakote oven at 70, with the oven set to 75 degrees for about 15 minutes. Let's do some resistance testing while they're in the oven. So, what do we got? This is the, can't even tell, hang on, which is new and which is old. Oh, this is the new one. See what this is now. Well, it's got a bit of heat in it. It's gone up a bit, hasn't it? What was it, 160, 161, so that's 166. And then what's the old one doing? It was at 200 ohms, wasn't it, when it was on the bike, when it was hot? What do we got now? Yeah, so a big sway in resistance. Was that a bad connection? Yeah. And that's at 194, right? Okay, so there's a definite discrepancy between those two. what to say, I've got a load of cleaning to do of all the parts. Let's get everything washed off, all the old gaskets cleaned off, the new sensor fitted. I won't bore you with that, you've seen it come apart, it's the reverse going back together, new gaskets, new sealy, washer things. We'll finish off with some comparisons of waveforms, maybe with the oscilloscope, and showing a hot start and stuff. Right, see you in a bit. Fucking hell, this black stuff gets bloody everywhere. What the fuck? Stand by editing, Jim. I'm going to have to wipe my hands. Little wire clampy brackety thing. Click. Okay. Got new gaskets, new little washery jobbies for the bolts. You know, I said there was a broken bolt. That was a big fat lie. That's what that was. It looks like there should be one there, and I'm sure I remember there being a bolt, but that is just casting. It's just casting. There's no thread, and then in this cover, you're not going to see it very well in this light, where it looks like there should be a bolt, where this dowel is, it's yeah, it's not been machined. I swear there were two bolts there. Maybe on other models there were. Right, onwards. Put it together, Jim. Stop talking. Let's make sure we line this up properly. Otherwise, we know what might happen. Alright, I've got a question. Where's the bolt? Oh, there it is. Right, if you're easily offended, fucking hell, that airline's leaky. You better look away now. Two ugga-duggers tight, that. No torque wrench. Torque wrench police are going to come and get me. Right. Gear with no... What's it? Wavy washer. Let's get a little bit of schmoo for that O-ring so it slides over there. Right, that's that buttoned up. Connect this up. And let's find out if we fix this blooming thing. Okie dokie, it's the moment of truth. So it's all back together. Fairing is on, etc. Cold start. Full choke, no throttle. Right, all we got to do now, if you can hear me over this row, let me move. All we got to do now is let it warm up to, I'm going to get it properly hot, like over 100 degrees, fan coming on. Turn it off, see if it restarts, because it wouldn't before. And then I'll maybe, in fact, hang on, let's knock this choke down a little bit. And then I'll, shall I do you a little bit of a oscilloscope-ness of the new sensor? Maybe, maybe not. Let's see how I'm feeling. I'm up against the clock a little bit, as always. Let's get this thing warm, see if it cuts out. cuts out. What am I talking about? Let's see if it doesn't hot start, which is the issue. Right, I'll see you in a bit. Okie dokie, are we getting that? What's that, 101? Let's turn it off. The fan's been, oh, there goes my phone. Oh my God, sorry guys. What was I saying? 101 degrees, fan's been on and off a couple of times. I'm gonna leave it just sit for a couple of minutes, let it heat soak. Let's try and start it, see what happens. Right, it's sat for, oh, there's a spider there on the screen. Go away. Sorry, squirrel. It's sat for a couple of minutes. No throttle, just push the button, cross your fingers. Oh, you fucking beauty. Wouldn't do that before. Okay, that makes me happy. Let's have a quick look at, I'm going to disconnect the primary windings of the coils and just get a sample of the waveform cranking. Not really as a comparison, because I know it's fixed, but just for my database of known good waveforms. Let's do that quickly. Okay, so I've got the primary side of the coils disconnected, so it won't start. Let's just crank it, see what sort of a waveform we get. Let's stop that. Stylas. Let's not go any further. You can see, can't you, from, if you've seen part, what was it, part 1, whatever it was. Anyway, let's not get too far into it. Lovely clean signal. It's fixed. Not a lot more to say, really. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give me a like and subscribe if you learned something. If you want to support the channel even more, become a patron and join the Discord. We talk about this sort of stuff a lot in the Discord. There's a dedicated conversation called Oscilloscope Diagnostics in the Discord. So if you want to get involved, you know, we can compare waveforms and talk about this subject of stuff in there. Anyway, wafflage. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next week.